Today's conversation is really about developing resolve. And the word resolve meaning it has it has a lot of different meaning, but it's to make an absolute decision about something, right? Like, do you have resolve to take an action on something, right? Like you decided on something, but do you have the resolve to pursue it, to take action on it? Do you have the resolve to execute on it? So I remember when I was in college, anyone here been to college, raise your hand. If you've been through some type of higher education, raise your hand if you've been through higher education. Um, Most of you have, and it's okay if some of you don't. It's all right. We don't have to, college is not the thing that will make you successful, right? You go to a university, doesn't mean you're guaranteed a very high paying job. And they don't tell you that when you sign up. They just know they just take your money. You're just like a bank account for them. So they'll take your money. But I remember when I was going into college, man, I was young, 18, 19. And, this is way back for me. It was both fun and very stressful time, when I was in college. This was a time where I was learning to develop my time management, my, you know, my independence. I was developing a lot of those, life skills in college. Honestly, I was not supposed to be learning those things. I should have been learning that when I was like maybe 10 years old, but I didn't learn that until I grew up, which is like 18, 19, where I didn't really grow up yet. I just went to college and now like I have to learn how to take care of myself. And there was a lot of stressful time for me because, majority of that time I was spent, with distraction, partying, with drinking, and the most of the time I was spent in college, I did not focus on what was important, which was learning and getting good grades. And a lot of us probably did the same thing because we got free from our house, free from our homes, free from our parents. Maybe we were just rebelling. Long story short, I failed a lot of classes. And this one particular class was called Economic 101. And I took this class, during my bachelor degree, trying to get my bachelor degree. I was a freshman. And to be honest, I wasn't sure why I was taking this class. We took a bunch of random classes. And they had no attendance policy. There was no like quizzes, nothing. So it was pretty much you show up, you study, and then you take a test. And there was only two tests that you take. And the first test was, the first half of the semester, and then the second test was the final exam. And I didn't do very well the first test, obviously, because I didn't show up for class. I didn't study. I just was too busy partying and having fun, super distracted, focused on what I wanted to do and my needs. And this eventually led to a situation that a lot of us might dread if you were in college. You had a scholarship. So I received a scholarship. Thank goodness. My parents didn't have to pay out of pocket. I got a scholarship. And long story short, if I didn't get good grades in all my classes, a certain GPA average, I would lose my scholarship. And so this really put me in a wall, right? There was due to my own lack of responsibility and accountability, I was going to lose a scholarship. And so I needed to pass this class. I need to make at least a B or an A to get through this. And so for the last 2, 3 days before the test, I cram, I grind. I mean, I kept my head down. I studied day and night. I took Adderall. I don't know if you guys remember Adderall. If you guys want extreme focus, take Adderall. That's what I was told. I bought some from some friends, and it didn't work for me because I have ADD, so I would jump from one attention thing to another. So it wasn't great for me. It didn't work for me because I jumped around a lot. But long story short, you cram, and half the time I didn't learn anything while I was cramming. I stayed up all night, and when I walked into the class, confidently walked in, sat down, took the test, and guess what? I made an A on the test. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't. So I pretty much just passed miserably. I was like, I wish that was the case, but that's never the case. Why am I sharing this with you guys? It's because when you have this beautiful vision of your life, beautiful future, when you have this vision of what it looks like if you did this work, you put in this effort, right? You did all of these things, but it didn't turn out the way you wanted, or you weren't able to put in the effort because this vision that you have, yes, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it inspires you, right? But it doesn't drive you enough. It doesn't push you or pull you enough, right? And today I want to talk about like this tool that I've used that really helps me a lot in the moment, right? In today, right? Sometimes we can't feel that future, right? We live in the present 100% of the time. Honestly, I hope most of us live in the present 100% of the time. Some of us probably live 50% of the past. I know, right? You might be zoning out half the time in your present moment, and 50% of the time you're looking back like, man, I used to be this athlete. I used to be this hot girl, maybe whatever, maybe. You still living in some of that in the past. And of course, we try to live 100% in the present. But, in the present is the only time that we have the opportunity to take action towards where we want to be in life. You know, if I didn't take action today, my future won't change. So let's talk about developing this absolute resolve, which is this absolute decision of taking action, this absolute decision that you will take, right? But before we can do that, we need to understand the fuel behind the action, right? What drives us, the pressure that drives us to have this resolve and to overcome all the blockage, the wall, the obstacle that exists to keep us from taking that action. So let's talk about our mind, right? The mind, the brain. Isn't it exciting, right? The one job of the brain is to keep us away from pain, right? All of us have some pain, right? Either physical pain or mental pain or emotional pain, love pain, right? Relationship pain. All of us have some kind of pain that we go through. But why does pain exist? So the pain sensor in our body is used to help us survive. That's really it. Our brain developed pain receptors so that we know when things could hurt us, right? It governs our behaviors, the way we decide things, our expectation, our attention, our learning too, right? Really, pain determines your learning, right? So really, the reason why we have pain is so that that we stay away from things that can hurt us. It is designed to protect us. Who here's like to put their hand on a hot grill? Raise your hand if you like to put your hand on a hot grill. Nobody, right? Really. Some of you raise your hand. You're kind of crazy. So luckily, nobody's here is crazy. So nobody raised their hand. That's good. We're not around crazy people. And some of us are more, let's say, receptive to pain, right? More sensitive to pain, and some of us are not. Like for me, um, I like to lean into pain. I don't like running away from it. So why do we run away from pain? We run away from pain because our mind taught us that to keep ourselves safe, to keep us feel protected, we run away from it. We got to stay away from it. And that's something that we've been taught when we were young, right? You fall down, it hurts. You don't do that again. If you run into a wall, you run into a corner, you bust your toe against the bed, it hurts. Don't do that. Don't put your hand in a hot bucket of, boiling water, right? It hurts. So your mind teaches you to avoid pain and discomfort. But the truth is, yes, some of those things are very helpful, but then over time we develop this avoidance in our mind to pain. We purposely avoid pain. And what does that do for us today? So today we live in a place, a world, we live in America actually, where we're not running away from hungry animals anymore. We're not in an environment like a war-torn environment. We're not living in like the desert. We're not living in like some crazy hostile place that put our life at risk. We are living in the most comfortable time ever in our life, right? Maybe we are living in a country that does provide some with amazing comfort. And some of the comfort that we have today, easy access to food, access to safe leisure time, abundant access to drugs and alcohol. Honestly, you can get painkillers and alcohol very easily, and marijuana too, cannabis, right? Very easily. There's a culture of fun and pleasure seeking, convenience with quick delivery to your doorstep. You don't even go shopping to the grocery store anymore, right? You just order it on Amazon, order it on, maybe Uber Eats or something, and it's delivered right to your door. You don't even have to leave your house. You get instant access to entertainment, instant access to a lot of things, right? So there's a reason why a lot of us don't want to take action because new action leads to unknown, and you might lose some of the comfort that you have. You might be living in some comfortable place right now. The more comfortable, like I realized for me, the more money I've made, the more comfortable my life became, and it was harder for me to do things that were new and uncomfortable. And really, I have to force myself to lean into it. Right. That's why I like to do crazy things. I like to do like hikes, long hike endurance challenges because it forces me to lean into painful things. So number one, I want you guys to ask yourself this. What are some of the comfort that you're not willing to lose? Think about that. List one thing that you're not willing to lose. Like, what are one thing you're not willing to lose that is comfortable? Like one thing. Everybody got their thing that they're comfortable, that they want to continue to have, you know? For me, it's ice cream. I don't want to lose ice cream. All right. I like eating ice cream, so that's my thing. Dude, I can be in pain, but man, like I could be in pain eating ice cream, I'll be okay. Right. So that's why I love doing long endurance challenges. You know what? I get to eat whatever I want. I'm a foodie, so I get to eat whatever I want. I can train for like 100-mile run, but you know what? Like, hey man, I can eat any kind of carbs I want. I can carb up all day, peanut butter, honey, and ice cream all day, man. So that's my thing, right? That's like my compensation for the pain. It's not very good, so that's why I gotta continue to exercise. So I have to limit myself. My wife keep me in check. So think about that one thing that you do not want to lose. Okay. So you know that chasing the comfort, the pleasure, leisure, honestly, when you chase those things, you're running away from things that can grow you. Right? When you chase those things, you'll be running away from the things that are uncomfortable that can help you grow. So let's talk about what are some of the things that, you know, keeps us from taking action. A lot of it is I don't feel like doing it. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. Like, let's talk about the blockage, right? These are the blockage. What are the blockage that could stop you from doing these things? I don't have enough skills. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough time. A lot of us, a lot of us have these blockage that stops us from taking the action because it's not just the comfort that we're worried about losing. It's also the wall and the obstacles that's between wanting to do it and then doing it, right? There's a doing and then there's wanting to do it. There's something in between that stops you from doing it. Usually is I don't have time, I don't feel like it, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the skills, I don't have the energy, I don't have the know-how. So what is stopping you from taking the action right now? What's identify what are some of the things that are stopping you? Just one thing. Maybe some of the things I listed to getting you to take the action to get you to where you want to be. Write down that one reason why you're not taking action every day. And a lot of it is usually a mental barrier, right? All of us have some mental barrier. I'm gonna be honest, like when I started, I didn't have any money. When you start, I know when we start a business, not all of us have the luxury or the access, right, to funding. Like I don't have a rich parent. I don't have rich parents, right? My parents, they made like $30,000 a year combined when I was growing up. And you know what? I couldn't go out there and ask them for money. That wasn't something I could do because they didn't have any money to ask. Right. So I had to find ways. I used my student loan, which was what I did. I got a job and I worked. And so at the end of the day, it's like, how resourceful are you? So let's think about the reason why you're not taking action because there's always a solution to a problem. Now let's talk about how do we use pain to drive the action, right? Right. So let's just imagine the scenario. You're sitting at home watching Netflix, YouTube, maybe. Some of you might be laying in bed watching YouTube. I do that sometime, short scrolling, on YouTube short and just next thing you know, it's like an hour in, right? You're scrolling and it's an hour in. You're just relaxing on your bed, watching a bunch of random things that YouTube's feeding you. Just relaxing. You get a call. You don't know who's calling, but you pick up. And somebody told you on the other line saying, if you don't do this, something's bad's gonna happen. Something's terrible is gonna happen. Now think about what would that terrible thing be? Write down what is that one terrible thing that could happen if you don't take action, if you don't do this thing. Would you do it? 100%, right? For me, if I get a phone call and saying that my family's life is on the line, let's be honest here, let's be real here. Your family's life is on the line, your children's life on the line, your life is on the line. Would you take action? Most of us will say yes, right? Yeah. Raise your hand if you say yes. Raise your hand if you say yes. If somebody called you and said that this will happen, this terrible thing. So we don't live in this state of mind very often. I get it. We don't want to, right? What is this one terrible thing that you don't want to happen in your life ever? For me, so I'll give you an example of what my like terrible future, my like worst future that I could ever imagine. And I think about this all the time when I don't want to do something. Just like this. I see my family homeless, I see my kids homeless, no father, just on the street, hungry. I can't help my parents. My parents are dying, homeless, right? My families are homeless. Kids are, begging for food. I'm not there for them because why I didn't do my job. I didn't do what I had to do, what I must do. Like that's the kind of like terrible thinking sometimes that I have to force myself to do things that I don't want to do. Um, so you have to really, because why? Because we respond to fear. Respond to pain. It's great to have a beautiful vision. Yes, I have a beautiful vision for my future. But sometimes that vision doesn't push you to take an action. And these are the tools that you need to use to direct your actions, right? And I thought about this a lot because I remember when I was, you know, struggling to, build this business that I was building, or struggling to be better every day. And, I always tell myself, I don't want to screw up my life. I don't want to end up homeless. I don't want to end up poor. I don't want to end up being in a place that I can't take care of anybody. And that fear really drove me because I was like, what if, I just didn't do anything? What if my life just stayed the same? Your life never stays the same. It's always going to get worse if you don't do anything different. And that's why I envision the worst possible outcome. I write it down. Write down your worst possible outcome if you don't take an action today. Something that is so painful, so regrettable, so terrible that caused you so much fear, so much anxiety, so much pain that it drives you to take an action. Why? Because you take this action, the right action. You take the right action so that you can change that course, right? Because we know the result. Like If I keep drinking and drinking and drinking every day, I will know the results. Because you know what? I'll tell you why a lot of people don't think about like the results of things that happens in the future. Because they just focus on, okay, I'm just gonna drink today and it's okay. But they never think about, if I drink and drink and drink, this is how my family's gonna end up. This is how I'm gonna end up. This is the result of gonna be my life. This is how bad I can get, right? This is how bad things can get. They don't think about that future. They just focus on right now. Like, it's okay, I'm just gonna drink. It's the same reason why a lot of people say, it's okay, I'm not gonna do it today. It's okay, I don't want to do this today. And so that's why we need to know how to use fear, pain, and the pain of like being a failure, right? The pain of failing. It's okay. These are all tools to help us reach our fullest potential, right? Because we know that there's consequences at the end of the road if we don't do the right thing, we don't take the right action. So let me give you an example. So I've been watching this Netflix documentary about the Manhattan Project. It's about Oppenheimer, Einstein, World War II. If you guys like watching, war documentaries, I recommend watching it. It's interesting, but it's about developing the atomic bomb. And you know what? They knew, Einstein knew that this thing was gonna destroy a lot of people, hurt a lot of people. Oppenheimer was the lead physicist that did the research too. He knew this. They knew the impact of this because they were like, yeah, it's great for, natural, great energy source, but then they also knew how devastating this thing was. But why did they continue the research? Why did the US pour tons of resource into this thing? Because they saw an outcome that was worse, which is having Hitler developing this because he's gonna murder millions and millions of people with this device. So there was a lot of fear, right? Everyone in the military was fearful. The government was fearful. The U.S. was fearful. They're like, okay, Einstein was fearful. Oppenheimer was fearful, and he was like, you know what? We're gonna make sure that we achieve this result. We're gonna get this thing to work. And so they developed the atomic bomb. They were the first to develop the atomic bomb in the Manhattan Project. Watch it, it's pretty interesting. But then when I think about it, I'm like, that fear drove them to do this, to take this action, right? Because they knew the worst case scenario was a thousand times more painful. And so, you know, we all knew how it turned out. They used the bomb, of course, devastating, killed a lot of people, but there was a reason why they did it because they knew that it would stop a war. You guys get my point. We're using fear and pain that's so terrifying that it forces us to take action. It gives us pressure to take action. When you don't have pressure, you're not gonna push, right? You need that pressure to push, right? So make sure you write that down. What is the most terrifying reality that you see yourself in if you don't take action today? And you have to remind yourself that because in 24 hours, we live in the present. We live in this moment. We need to remind ourselves why we do certain things, right? If we don't do this, who's going to be impacted? If we don't take this action, who's going to lose? What are we going to lose? What future are we going to lose? I know, don't misunderstand me, like sounds kind of bad, right? Sounds kind of fearful, like, hey, fear mongering, but sometimes we need that. And this is a tool that you can use to help you take actions on days you don't want to. Yes, it's great. We think about our beautiful future, but sometimes we need to use everything in our toolbox to execute, right? Sometimes, there's days I don't feel like showing up. There's days I don't feel like showing up for Monday mindset. I'm gonna be honest, because it takes time to write these things together, right? It takes time to put some of these ideas together, and it takes time to, deliver the idea, the thought process of what worked for me. But I always tell myself this, if I don't show up, what is everybody going to think about me? I'm traveling. I could just say, hey, I'm traveling today. Sorry, no class, no Monday mindset. That's an easy excuse. My back hurt. Easy excuse. Honestly, my back hurt was an easy excuse to not show up to this event. My torn bicep was an easy excuse for me to not climb that mountain, hike that mountain that I had to climb. Very easy excuse. So we make a lot of easy excuse, but when I say this, man, when I tell myself this, like, what kind of person am I? Did I be, am I going to let myself become someone that's not dependable? If I can't be dependable, what would happen to me in the future? That means I won't be dependable for my team. I won't be dependable for my family. Next thing you know, it's a roller coaster ride of me falling downhill, and then we end up broke and poor, and everybody's homeless, right? And so there's a lot of reason why I have to show up, and you have to think about that too. What are some of those, reasons why? Like, what are some of the worst case scenarios? Write that down. List two or three of them. Come back to them, three or four of them. If you have a lot, write them down so that you can look back at them every single day and say, if I don't show up, this will happen. The process of growth is very painful. I'm not gonna lie to you. The process of growth is hard. It's painful, but I'd rather grow better in pain than stay stuck and regretting the rest of my life, right? Don't stay stuck and in a state of regrets, right? I talked about this book a couple of Monday mindsets ago. I forgot the it was a nurse from a hospice, and she says a lot of people just regret on their deathbed, right? Hospice is a place where people die. You can totally get into that business. It's a great business. There's a lot of dying people. You make a lot of money. I have a friend. He has like seven of them. Got a franchise of them of hospice. And that a lot of people, a lot of old folks, they don't have family, and so they go to this place and they die there, right? And they have nurses, and the nurses help them pass away in a gentle way. And so this is a business. You can help people die peacefully. So if you guys want to get into this business, man, there's always people dying. You never run out of business. So, but this nurse, she went through thousands and thousands of death, and she wrote this book, and she says people at the end of their life, they regret not doing the things that they wanted to do. They regret not spending time with their family. They regret not trying that thing that they wanted to try. They regret not betting on themselves, right? Don't sit on your deathbed regretting. Don't let that happen. If that's a fear of yours, don't do that. So you need pressure. Remember, this is about creating pressure so that you can push through the blockage, the wall. Okay. And this is how you really start developing that absolute resolve. Like, I have to do this. I must do this, right? I must do this. This absolute resolve is I must do this. I must take this action. I must show up. I must spend this 30 minutes to learn. I must do my daily learning. I must take time to learn a skill. I must show up for class. I must show up to do my research. I must show up to do my due diligence, right? And I'm not saying to be like extremely, to be extreme about being productive or anything like that. The truth is, it's okay for you to say, hey, today is a day I'm going to take a break because I need it. It's productive to take a break. It's productive if you lack sleep for the last 3 days to get sleep, because if you don't have sleep, you can't be productive. But it's not okay when you miss a week of effort, when you just show up and decide, I don't want to do this anymore. That's not okay. It's not okay when you say, I'm going to give up, I'm going to quit. It's not okay when you give up on other people. It's not okay when you give up on yourself. It's not okay when you give up on your future. That's why we have a vision. That's why I have a vision for my life. I'm not giving up on that. I'm not giving up on my future that I want. The only time you fail in life is when you give up on you. You give up on the things that you want. You give up on the future that you want. That's the only time you fail. Life, business, everything is a game of prolonging as much time as you can keep playing, right? It's about prolonging the game. Let's keep playing. Let's keep having money to play. Make a little bit so you can play longer. The longer you play, the bigger the business is going to be, the better your life is going to be. That's all I have for today.